Hey, what's up guys? This is Teacher Del and I'm back with another instructional material or instructional video. So starting today, I will be uploading some lessons and discussions that I had with my students. So this is a second chance as well for my students who were absent or was not really able to listen well, or your mind flying around somewhere else during the discussion. So this is your chance to look back or review the lessons that we had the previous days. Now, this lesson was discussed last June 17, 2019. We will be discussing about alliteration and conscious clause. First up, let's have some exercises with the following. Everybody, if 6 witches were watching 6 watch wrist watches, which Swiss watch wrist watch would the 6 witch watch? Alright. And the next one, how much would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck would chuck wood? Alright, and the two are examples. Those two are examples of our tongue twisters. And I just did that for you. Yes, I just did. Now looking back at our first tongue twister, Swiss witches were watching 6 watch wrist watches, which Swiss watch wrist watch would the 6 witch watch. Alright, so there's the repetition of the letters S and W. So we can notice that the letter S are constantly used as the first letter of a word. For example, the Swiss, number 6, swatch, and what else? Sixth. And also there's the repetition of the letter W in the word with witches were watching wrist watch wood, and that's it. And in our second tongue twister, there's the repetition of the letter letter W with the words wood, woodchuck, and that's it. The wood, and woodchuck. Also the repetition of the letter C with chuck and could. Now these are what we call your alliteration. So what does alliteration mean? I just mentioned it earlier. It is the use of the same consonant at the beginning of each syllable in a line of a poem, or simply in a line. Now let's take a look at this stanza coming from Invictus, which we had discussed last week. In the first 2 lines, in the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. So in these 2 lines, we can notice the repetition of letter C in clutch, circumstance, and cried, as well as in our last 2 lines, the number 3 and the number 4, under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Now, there's the repetition of letter B in bludgeonings, bloody, but, and unbowed in the syllable bowed. So, meaning again, the use of the same consonant at the beginning of each syllable in a line of a poem. So do you have any questions? Just comment down below. Now this technique helps emphasize the emotion of the person and regulate the sound of the poem. So as you can see, the sound of the poem in the second stanza of Invictus revolve around the sound of C and the sound of B. So as you can notice, it intensifies the emotion, just like in bludgeonings, bloody, but unbowed. So there's that strong emotion to it, that even though there's that difficult circumstance with the bludgeonings, bloody, but unbowed, that kind of strong emotion. Okay, so if you have any questions or clarifications, you can still comment down below. Let us proceed to our next discussion, which is the contrast clause. Under the contrast clause, there are subordinating conjunctions, and those are your but, although, even though, while, despite, yet, and in spite of. So let us see what are the difference between despite and in spite of. There is not much difference with in spite of and despite. One thing that we should remember is that after in spite of and despite, we use a noun or a pronoun. Example: we enjoyed our camping holiday in spite of the rain. So we have our noun, the rain. Next example: despite the pain, the noun the pain, in his leg, he completed the marathon. Third example: despite having all the necessary qualifications, they didn't offer me the job. Okay, so there's the use of despite and in spite of. Let us remember that the gerund ing form is the noun form of a verb. So you can see in our third example, we have despite having. So that is a noun. Having is a noun. And the only difference between in spite of and despite is simply the word of. Questions? And this part is brought to you by the barking dog in our neighbor's house. Alright, let us proceed to the difference between although and even though. Now again, there's not much difference with although and even though. Let's try to remember that after although and even though, we use a subject and a verb. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. Although he worked very hard, he didn't manage to pass the exam. So we have the subject he and the verb worked. Although he worked very hard, he didn't manage to pass the exam. And then the second example: the holiday was great, although the hotel wasn't very nice. Alright, so the subject is the hotel and wasn't very nice. Next one: you keep making that annoying noise even though I've asked you to stop 3 times. Okay, so I've asked is your subject and verb. Alright, again, let us try to remember. Even though is slightly stronger form of although. Okay, there's not much difference. It's just that even though is slightly stronger form of although. Okay, so I'm not going to explain to you what are the definitions of but, while, although, even though, despite, yet, and in spite of, because it's already self-explanatory. Or should I? Okay, in a short glance, but when two clauses are contrasting. While is in a situation, another situation is happening while, and yet is used when the second clause comes as a surprise or an unexpected situation. For example, I did not study for the exam, yet I was able to pass, just like that. So that's it for our lesson last June 17, 2019. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you will be back in this channel for our next upload.